Hello everybody, this is Maniac for Bricks. This is the first time I'm actually testing out that video function, so apologies if it seemed a little weird. But I'm excited to try it either way because I thought it was going to be a fun thing to do, and I've already had the intro made for a while, and nice way to incorporate it into this video. So if you are watching this on YouTube, this is an archived live stream that I had done on my Twitch channel, Maniac for Bricks. But this is going up on Maniac for Bunks, which is basically an alternative channel with content every so often about Bionicle stuff, and we'll have some couple things going up on there in the future. But for right now, kind of every once in a while sort of thing, just for fun. For those who are interested in Bionicle and any thoughts I have with Bionicle, past, present, or future, even mocks, any of the sets, anything like that. So this particular video is one that I hope to do in a series of videos over time that is going to be ranking Bionicle mocks from the community from eBay. Specifically from eBay. Now, there are plenty of great mocks out there on Instagram, Flickr, YouTube, all over social media. And I follow many of them. And I'm this is a disclaimer right off the bat. I am not really a builder. I've tried building with Bionicle specifically. I mean, I'm good with system, and I used to build with Bionicle when I was a kid. But nowadays, there's a lot more stuff for me to learn, and it's really a lot of good inspiration out there to try to build new stuff. So I figure, well, maybe it'll be fun to take a look at stuff that's not necessarily community-based, but it's still out there online, and things that probably don't get as much spotlight as you would imagine because they're on eBay. They're custom creations that people had built at one time or another, or even have built recently to send up to someone else who may enjoy them. And hopefully they're not all entirely scrapped for parts. I've actually looked through eBay a couple of times for different Bionicle sets and Bionicle lots of things and come across customs as just its own niche. And I'm like, wow, there's actually some cool stuff in here. And I'd like to get inspired by those as much as the community to build some of my own stuff. So I'm going to put it down in the comments below how I'm going to have a ranking system for everything that we're going to look at in this particular video. This is recorded on February 16th, 2021 for any reference as far as when these eBay listings are available. And to be clear here, I am not going to be ranking based on the price of the customs. These are all obviously for sale, but I am not going to be looking at that as a merit of its value. I'm going to be looking at the actual construction of the model itself and judging it based on what I had seen in the community already, what I had already seen from Bionicle already, because I have built more than half, almost 3/4 of all Lego Bionicle sets currently, available. And not while I haven't built all the combo models, I have still seen a lot of building techniques between them. So it's kind of like how Bricks O'Brien had recently done a video on Twitch in which he was offering relationship advice for Valentine's Day, even though he's not currently in a relationship or has not spoken about a lot of relationship experience. This is kind of the same thing, where just for fun, I'm going to be looking through Bionicle mocks from eBay specifically, even though I have not built too many of them myself. I've been building them every once in a while, and I've been trying to get inspiration for a long time as far as actual construction. The characters and things, not a problem. The actual design process, I get very timid. So pardon me if some things need to be ranked a little bit better, and I would love to hear about your rankings of some of these in the comments below. Whether or not you want to use my system, perfectly fine. So let me leave it down here right now in the comments. It's a very basic point system in which we're going to be looking over a couple of different facets of each model. So the first one is about its originality to Bionicle sets and customs that I know of, or not customs, combos that I know of. So that's 1 point for the actual official designs. Of anything that has actually been released in Bionicle, any instructions that we have seen, anything that's been a combo model that I'm at least aware of, because I've not built every combo, and I probably haven't even seen every combo, but I have watched many of them over time, and I've built some of them as a kid. So let's see if, anything from these match up to those, or if it does something in a completely different direction. On a very similar point, which sometimes may actually be, you know, the same point, but it may happen, is going to be originality to the community. So this is based on anything that I had already seen in the community so far. There are plenty of other mocks that I probably haven't seen or have not looked as closely, but at least from my pool of, Bionicle fans and mock builders, just to see what has already been out there, if there are any building techniques or design choices that already exist, not necessarily that they're trademarked or copyrighted by any particular builder, but if it repeats enough, I might not, score it accordingly. And the other point that I have is, would I build this or a facet of this myself? So this is a point of basically, would this thing actually appeal to me? Is there anything as far as the color design or any of the building techniques or any of the construction of it that I would like to adapt into my own mocks? Not necessarily copy the whole thing one for one, because I still want to give credit where credit is due. But if there's anything that I would like to try to build myself or inspire me to build something based off of it. I will also be having a couple of things here for bonus points, depending on the aesthetics, the play functions, the posability, as things come up throughout each of the mocks. So they are going to vary quite a bit. Obviously, this is all my opinion, and I would love to hear yours in the comments down below if you think any differently. But these are the basic 3 points that I would like to go across for everything, and some other points may just vary based on how it's presented. If there are play features, I don't know if they're going to be as visible, because eBay is a system that's based on photo auctions and photo sales. So we aren't really going to see a video aspect of anything that's able to move in a different way. But some of it you might be able to draw just by the way the pieces are arranged. I could be wrong here. Maybe there are play features that I'm not aware of in any of these listings. And I'm basically going through several different listings as much as I can find them through eBay as of recording this video. And I say as of recording this video because there have definitely been plenty of customs that have sold before. There are probably going to be new customs sometime later. So I'm hoping that this will also be fresh enough that sometime later down the road, I will get to look at other ones that have not yet been seen on the site. I may skip over some here and there depending on the time that we have available, but I'm going to make the most out of it as we can. So without further ado, I'm going to bring up eBay right off to the side of the screen. And wait for it. I just have to wait for it to format. Okay, there we go. And also, this kind of could be its own chronicling of different Bionicle models that maybe maybe haven't been on social media beforehand or, widely in the community necessarily. So this could be an opportunity for other people to see things that have been built and maybe build some things based off of them. Like I said, I'm a very budding mockist. I have only built a couple things here and there, and I've been training myself to try to build at least one Bionicle mock each year, no matter what size it is or the complexity of it. I have not built one for this year yet, but I have plenty of concepts, at least, for, I want this color scheme on this figure, or, I want this one to be big and imposing, or whatever the case may be. So maybe I can draw further inspiration, not only from the community, but from these eBay listings. So simply put, I had looked for Bionicle mock on eBay to see what would come up. And not necessarily any order of things. Best match is generally like the anything, or it's kind of the category that just pops up on its own automatically on eBay. So I'm not going to worry about that. Again, I won't be judging these based on the price of them or anything about the seller's, feedback, anything like that. I'm just going to be looking at the model itself. And I do not know if any of them are in the community or whatnot. So if something does come up about that, it's not because of anything I know of the person. I do not know any of the people right off the bat. So let's see. Did it bring it up? And just testing here. Okay. Uh, um, it brought it up in another tab, which I didn't exactly want, but I think I can swap it over. It's kind of a shame. I only have 3 tabs open on Google Chrome, and Discord kind of in the way in the background, but I didn't think I was able to do a little technical work in advance. There's no other real stuff happening. And this is not the same laptop that I generally do my live streams, especially ones with using the screen and StreamYard and everything like that. This is from a different laptop, which I thought would run a little bit better. I've run it maybe 2 or 3 times before this on different live streams, but instead of it showing the screen, it was showing something like, through the webcam. It does not give me an option to get rid of Discord. I don't know why. Because I know those desktop notifications will show up. I don't know if they're going to show up on screen, though. So let's do our best with this. We got Lego Bionicle Mock, my own creation. My own creation, you get the point. Is there any description about it? Just out of curiosity before I go into it. I created this using my creativity. This is not a full correct set by Bionicle. Due to this mock, my own creation is out for my head, so I don't have any instructions included. All the support is gratefully, genuinely appreciated by me. This could be a great toy for young people who seeks for creativity. I think it means seeks. Again, I don't know the origin of this person, but it does mention a YouTube channel, a Facebook, and an Instagram, which is cool. Good to know. I might even just keep that off to the side if I need to look up anything further. Like I said, it is not going to go into any of the judging itself, but I will definitely check those out at some point because I'm always interested in seeing more Bionicle fans and what they do. But this is not somebody that I've already met or already seen through the community, at least on my own. So let's see if we can get close-ups. So this figure seems to be using a lot of dark pieces. We got some black as the main color scheme, some gunmetal gray, some silver, and I'm not going to worry about the specifics of grays and silvers. Dark bluish gray, because definitely it gets more complicated than that. The Vizirac piece is actually pretty interesting, almost like its own insignia or just an extra textual bit. Like, I can't think of a Bionicle mock that I've seen, at least recently especially, but I've been looking at Bionicle mocks in the community for at least 5 years or so, online and in person at conventions. I don't recall many of them using a Vizirac, like the miniature ones from the playsets. That's kind of standing out to me already. So, okay. This is a design that I have seen with other people, but not necessarily with these exact parts. And that is some kind of, I guess the word is chicken-like design, in which they have the forelegs are very like forward, then it brings it angled backward, and then the rest of the leg from the knees downward kind of like slant in. It's almost like it kind of reminds me of an AT-AT, or not AT-AT, ATST, like from Star Wars. And I don't know why that's a design choice. I don't even know why in robotics in general that's a design choice. If that's something that would actually be stable over a standard bipedal position or anything like that. But it is something that, again, I don't remember seeing it with these particular parts or even the accents over the parts, like these Rakshi staff pieces. So that is cool. That is nice. I'm going to look further up the torso. I see that he uses a couple of different pieces. They're kind of like this bandolier, almost like wraparound chain thing. which is interesting. I mean, I have seen people use chains, but I don't remember them using that particular part. So that is cool on its own. The arms are a little bit on the basic side. They do remind me a lot of what the Anika builds and Paraka builds and even the Maori builds, kind of like 2006 onward or so would have for, kind of like a basic arm piece that's stretching from a wide piece, a wide torso piece, and then having like one or two armor pieces attached on it. I do see some points that are that stretch off of it, like behind the arms, and the arms themselves again, kind of like one or two pieces to work with it, and then like simple hands and a tool there. Okay. Um, the head, I mean, I don't mind about the scroll head being on, or the mask of the scroll being on that head itself. It's just a good fit in general. The neck itself stretching out, I guess, has been used a few times in Bionicle, from what I recall. Um, so it works okay there. Let's see. There are a few more photos, so I'm gonna get a little wider shot of the whole model. So even though the torso is based on a Paraka piece, it still has a lot built around it. So it still it still does stand out in its own way. I would say that it reminds me a bit of Vizon, but beefed up even further than Vizon. So a lot of different things along the backside where you see some of the blue pins. Um, Even the fact that right at the end of that torso piece, it doesn't go straight to hips and legs. There's still a midsection in between there that's very original. And yeah, okay. Feet a little bit on the basic side, kind of like, I mean, it's basically from the knee downward, but if you're going from the entirety of the leg, from the hips upward, or from the hips downward, there's some originality for the design there. So I'm gonna say like half a point in terms of originality ripped from Bionicle sets, but they do change a couple things around. So it's not entirely something we've seen before, even if it's a different color of pieces or construction or anything. Okay, so yeah, I can see more clearly about the what's on the back of the forearms, and that's a little more accenting. That's good. Um, so yeah, it's like the forearms are basically exactly what you would expect from Bionicle. A lot of Bionicle sets have done similar things to that. There's not a lot of accent or a lot more going on with it. Whereas with the legs, while it does resemble some of the Bionicle sets, not necessarily the Chicken Walker style, that I would say is a bit more original outside of Bionicle. Um, Maybe some combo models might have had that, but none come to my mind distinctly at this moment. Um, I will give a credit for like the upper part of the legs being a different design. Now, in terms of originality to the community, I'd say I'll give it the full point. I think it really deserves a full point there because I don't remember seeing a model like this from head to toe, looking exactly like it. I don't recall any specific play feature or specific stance features. Yes, the Chicken Walker design in concept is something that the community has done before, but with these particular parts, I think it still feels unique. The torso is definitely the highlight here, and hey, I really want to learn more torso designs. So I kind of want to give it the point there for what I want to build this myself or build something inspired by this. I'm gonna give it the point there. So, because I do like that while the upper part of the torso is very recognizable, it still has more beef to it behind it. And there's still a midsection before it gets to the legs, so that you can get a lot more posability out of that. You get more flair out of that. I'm probably going to be using a lot of the same words over and over again throughout these reviews, so I do apologize if I do sound redundant. And I'll probably apologize about that even later on. The claws that come around is actually a good touch. Like that's something again I can't remember seeing from any mocks as of recently, but it almost creates like its own like neck and shoulder area, almost like a shoulder blade or something, almost like a collar maybe. But something about it is still very striking. The use of the chains are actually pretty cool. even though it's not the way I personally would like to use them, because I would hate for those parts to bend enough to break. And I don't think there's really a risk of it here. I'm not really worried about illegal building techniques through any of these, but it's something that for my parts I probably wouldn't do as much, even though I have multiples of them. I have seen some of them where they just kind of like bend a little out of shape, and I don't want to do that for all of them. This one definitely looks like it would take 2, maybe 3 or so to make that happen. But yeah, there's some good beef. There's some good beef going on here. So we don't have a name or anything for this one. I'm just going to go off of the name of the person that we saw in the description, which was Luke Bionicle Collection. So for his first one that we see on here, I'm just going to put that down in the comments right now. Out of this review system, I give him 2.5 out of 3. Now, are there any bonus points that I can give him that would stand above the rest? Initially, I think I want to give it the midsection credit. I think I really like how there's a lot more weight to him, that there's a lot more to look at with him. So instead of it just ending at that one piece, I want to give that an extra point, because like a full point, because that is something that in my mind, when I think of custom building Bionicle figures, or even when I've tried helping with kids in STEM programs of building Bionicle figures or Hero Factory figures, never would really come up. So having that, that originality there, I think is important. And therefore, I will bump him up. Let me see if I can. Oops. Okay, let's try that again. So right now, this first mock has a 3.5 out of 3. Take of that as you will. I think there's a little bit of drawbacks, but I think there's still a lot of really cool stuff going on with this. I don't think it's a problem about the gunmetal gray and black being too muted. I think that for this figure, it works very well, and it's pretty well spread. Like it's not too much of gunmetal gray or anything like that. The silver is in nice little places here and there. Black is definitely the main color of it. So very nicely done. Thank you for sharing, even though I'm the one who looked it up. Let's see. So allow me to just pull up. There's a few custom ones in here that are literally recolors, and this is a common thing. Yes, the community does do this, and I think you can classify it as a mock. I've done. I should probably take a look at them as well. But just don't expect a huge score based off of it, because of the nature of why it exists. Hopefully not just opening up a lot of. Okay, so for our second figure we're looking at today, we're looking at Bionicle Mock Eros. I don't know if that's the pronunciation necessarily, but that's what I'm looking at. It reminds me of a cross, so I just take the C out and I call it Eros. For this one in particular, yeah, there are some of these I had actually perused a little bit before the stream, so don't mind about a couple things here and there. But I have not bought any of these, I will tell you that. Okay, so there is a little this one in which he says, Eros A Hazizian scientist from Zepvera wears Muktuku, the great mask of emulation. I like that there's a little bit of backstory, some proper names, including included in there. None of them that actually follow from anything from Bionicle. Um, Even the mask itself, while it is a Bionicle piece and probably has more official, information for it in story, um, they are treating in here as its own thing. Unfortunately, with this one, we only have one image of it to take a look. So I'm going to have to look at this as much as possible. This actually looks like a custom mask. If I'm looking at this correctly, there's some customization there. Okay, all right. I like that there's another one in the background. uh, Hopefully that one turns up in another listing or something, because I'm curious what that one is all about. Um, so this guy, he has a pretty good color scheme, black, kind of mixed in between each other, or some parts it's like white with black covering it. Some of it is white and black almost at the same time doing the work. So foot piece that's on his chest, black. I don't remember if that was actually a legitimate part, but if it was colored, more power to you. It was nice being there, so I'm not concerned about that. I really, really need to learn OBS because StreamYard is really doing me dirty. And it's been doing me dirty for a while. It's been doing me dirty now on multiple laptops. And I've tried my dangest, and I had to even tell myself the dangest, um, to make it work. How am I supposed to pay for this when the free version boops up? I'm really censoring myself quite a bit here. Um, it ain't fun. It ain't fun. And I don't know how wizards do it, but wizards out there do it, where they use StreamYard flawlessly with 9 people and sharing a screen and probably doing other stuff on their computers or having other tabs or whatever. I have only this tab and like 4 or 5 other tabs, so 6 tabs currently open, and that's not a lot. My computer has run more than that. So apologies that I'm going to have a rant in here, but StreamYard has been doing me dirty of just booping out constantly, and not even from a lot of CPU, as far as I can tell. This isn't really that old of a laptop. Anyways, see if we can get back on track here. So last we were looking, we had the Bionicle Moc Eros. And if I'm pulling this up correctly, we should have the single photo that we have in the listing. I tried to zoom in a little bit on it, but this is as far as we'll get naturally. I might be able to do a little bit more, but it's going to get a bit more grainy as we go through that. And so help me if it's not transmitting Okay, I really have to figure things out. Of course, I've asked people before. It falls on deaf ears, but you know, so whatever. So looking closer at this mock, I see a lot of resemblance to already existing Bionicle sets. I mean, obviously, there's the arms themselves, which I could say is almost directly something you would see from the Toa Ignica and maybe even the Toa Maori. The legs, a little bit different, but I still feel like the general body between the legs and the torso is something that we'd seen from, I would say, a combination of Titan figures. So the upper part of the torso reminds me a lot of Maxilos and Spinax, mostly about the Maxilos part of the set with some of those pistons and the waist articulation. And to its credit, Maxilos is amazing, is phenomenal, really good. Like, it's honestly, in my opinion, one of my favorite Bionicle sets ever. It has a lot of really good stuff going for a unique torso design that is very posable, that is very formidable, like it'll actually hold itself together. So I totally get it if this person was inspired by Maxilos to recreate it in their own way, to change up some of the colors and designs to make something else out of it. With that being said, there's a lot borrowed from it. And there are still plenty of things that are outside of it that are not used. And unfortunately, we only get this one angle, so I can't really make heads or tails about the back of it. But judging from some pistons in between, I have to imagine that some of this, is almost step-by-step instructions from Maxilos. The legs, I think the legs are different from Maxilos particularly. And I would say that the closest thing that these resemble would be maybe some of the '04, maybe '05 sets, maybe. Yeah, because they're on one hand, it kind of reminds me. I mean, I can see that they have like the slicers pieces that are used across as the beams for each of the figures, sides of the legs. But it also reminds me of like a little bit in the construction. It reminds me off the offhand of um maybe some of the '05 Titans and kind of do some things like this, where it's like you have a ball joint on each end and you connect it through the middle with some beams. Um, the style of them does change a bit, so I will consider that. It's not completely just color swapped like the torso is. Um, the legs, a little bit on the basic side. I don't remember if that particular setup for the legs has been used before. I want to say it's kind of the thing that Nocturne has, but I might be mistaken about that. So you can correct me about that and other things in the comments. But it doesn't feel entirely original either. Like, again, I feel like that's an instructional thing that has been done before. So, in terms of originality to Bionicle, I'm going to give this one a 0. I do not think it gets the full point. I believe that this borrows a lot of different elements from various sets, which are formidable sets in their own way, like fair way to be inspired by them. But it doesn't really excel in anything new out of those sets. A lot of it is a color swap and maybe a few aesthetic choices for the armor on top of it. That being said, in terms of originality to the community, I don't remember a figure like this. I'm actually having trouble still looking at this a bit further. If it's supposed to be white and black or if it's a tan and black. And if it was a tan and black, I think that would actually be really cool. I think that would actually make it more original in some ways. Because I don't remember a lot of tan and black figures from the community, especially in a color scheme like this, where it's like black is more dominant, but tan, sitting close at hand in the background. Um, if it's white and black, I think it's a pretty fair combination that a lot of people have tried at some point or another. Um, in the volume of it, maybe a bit different. Let's see here. I think the mask is original. I will give credit for the mask, which looks to me like it's 3D printed, so it's not something that we had already seen from Bionicle parts. It's not something that I had seen from the community. I mean, the community also uses 3D mask printing, but I don't remember this particular design, even if it's in a different color, appearing in other sets or other mocks. So that's good on its own. Again, the chest piece with the foot. Again, I don't remember if that's officially. I think it's an official part. It might be a playset part, if I remember correctly. There was a playset that used it as a as like the base of the vehicle, but I don't remember if it was in black. Maybe it was something else. I'm not sure. And God forbid I try to look it up while still running the stream. The sword, it's not a lot different than what we had seen from the Toa Ignika. I will give it the credit that it is an upward sword instead of it being a blaster. This is originally from Nuparu Ignika, who would normally be holding it in two hands, kind of forwarded. So it's not less of a sword, more of a blaster. In this orientation, being a blaster, it's a bit different. So there is that. I don't remember many people in the community that have used the Anika swords or even this particular one as a blade. I think they would normally choose something else. I normally think of like the Knight's Kingdom swords being used, if it's anything beyond Bionicle's reach. So that's okay. So as far as the community goes, I will give this one at least half a point. I don't know if it's worth the full point, because again, it's kind of hard for me to tell from the photo if it's supposed to be a tan or white. I think if it was a tan, I would lean more towards a 1 point. If it was white, I'd keep it at the half. And as far as something that I would build, I'm ashamed to say I would like to try to build something like this, but I would also want to add more to it. I think it's a good base. I still, like I said before, I think Maximus is a great base to work off of as far as the torso design. And I think some of the Titans from 2004 onward had some good merit to limb pieces. But why couldn't we get some of that construction in the arms? Because the arms are very, like, straightforward. And I feel like that's something that could have improved the mock. I think it's something that could have given them more detail, more accent to it. If it was using, even if it was almost the same length for some of these pieces, but just add more breadth to it. Like even compared to the chest, the arms look a bit skinny. So if they bulked up the way that the legs did, I think it would give a lot more meaning to the figure. I mean, it wouldn't really sacrifice the stability because you'd still be working off of the ball joints the same way. You wouldn't really need pistons as badly because depending on how much you add to it, you might be okay. So is it something that I would build? Not entirely in this orientation. I think some of it I would. So again, I'm going to give it the half point there. So currently I have it up to 1 point out of 3 for the 3-point system that I have. Are there any points I want to give for it? I'll give it another half point. I want to give it a little bit more credit for the original mask, because while it is nice seeing an existing mask repurposed for something else, it's something that we had seen in Bionicle already, and in some cases was very uninspired. There were some that were just completely unoriginal after a while. You know, Wakama Metru's mask I have seen way too many times, and you know, while it serves well for Vakama Metru, it kind of wore off on me over the years of seeing other characters own it, even if it's without that same power. But here, this is cool. This is a mask that I would probably look into and try to create a story for myself, or maybe find another color if it's available to print in another color. I think it even fits the Bionicle aesthetic very well in the way that the mask looks. I know it's a little bit of a blurry picture here, but I think it would actually be really neat to use. I still want to look up about the foot piece. I'm really not sure about that one offhand, and I don't know. I keep harping back to that because it's like everything else looks familiar except for that. And the way it's used on the chest feels good. It feels right. So currently, I have a Ross at 1.5 out of 3. While it does borrow a lot of elements from existing sets, and the color scheme is debatably something that we had seen in the community of black and white, unless it is tan. I hope I'm wrong and it's actually tan, and that would actually be really interesting. It does kind of mash together some really good building techniques from existing sets. It does try a few things original, and the mask really does give it a new identity. So yeah, well done. I did not see anything as far as the description for the figure, if it says anything as far as what else they, how else they can be found or anything like we saw in the first one. So allow me to bring up our next entry. This is kind of a 3-in-1, but it is the next one that was listed on eBay in order. Lego Bionicle in black, Toamata 8534, which is Tahu, Borak 8561, which looks like Nuvok, and Tohunga 1389, which looks like Onepu. Hopefully I'm pronouncing all those names correctly. Mock. And is there anything we should know in the description? Oh, I did get them right. That's the first thing I noticed. Offered here is a set of 3 classic Bionicle designs dating to 2001 and 2002, done in black. Toamata Tahu, Borak Nuvok. Ooh, this page is jumping on me. Borak Nuvok, and Tahuga McDonald's Onepu. Each figure is complete with generally used black parts substituted where available, including increasingly rare black Kanoe Pakari and Kanoe How masks. Okay, so can I stop you right there? The Kanoe Pakari is the most common in black. Like the black cow? Yeah, okay. I will give you that. But you put it where the Pakari was listed first as being rare. That's the most, like, I have several of them. I have several of that mask, whether or not with the full figure. I do not find that. I'm sorry. It is a nitpick that I have when looking through eBay, and something is listed as rare when it's really not. And rarity should not be that subjective. It should be very factual. Have a lot of these been made? Have a lot of these been distributed? It's not about how many of them are on the market, because, yeah, this is a figure that is widely manufactured, and it's widely on the market too, or at least in that color for that piece. So, yeah, I'm a little ticked on that one, but I'm not going to let that affect the score. I think it'll already speak for itself otherwise. Features green detail parts, including Tahu's brain stalk and Nuvok's Krana, rubber belt, and hooks. Onepu comes with a set appropriate Pakari throwing disc mock, a very cool set. Yeah, everything else beyond that is literally just about the listing, the shipping information and so on. So nothing else to harp on about that. Now, luckily, this one does provide us with a lot of photos, so we could see this thing truly all the way around. It is not going to score high, unfortunately, according to my system. So, we have one photo I'm going to get to scroll through, showing all 3 of our mocks. See, again, I really hesitate on the word mock because while I have done this myself, I have seen this from many people in the community. It's also just recoloring. You're not adding new construction to the figure. You're not, like a mod, I feel like would be adding some new construction or a more aesthetic thing, which I think this would fit more. A mock would be more originally driven. Like, even the last one that we looked at had something else going for it. You had a lot of inspiration from other sets, but it combined them in different ways than just making an entire copy of a set. And there were a couple of parts changed around, so it wasn't exactly as the set was released. So looking at Tahu, he is pure matte black. Every piece on here, except for the brain stalk, is purely black. And I'm glad. It is cool seeing an entirely black Tahu. However, you're still building Tahu. You are not adding anything to the design process. And this is something that everybody does. Everybody wants to build Tahu entirely in black. Everybody wants to build the Shadow Toamata in general. I've done it. I don't build them entirely in black because I want to change things around. And also because of a childhood, redesign I wanted to make or mod or whatever you want to call it. I know I'm probably going to dance a few words around and correct me if I do say something different. But this is the kind of thing that everybody would try. Maybe the only difference I can think of is that they wouldn't use the same pupils. Maybe they would change them to another color. I think I've seen red before for the pupils, for the brain stalk. But that's about it. Everything else on here would be exactly as I have seen it before. So if I have to, I'm kind of debating on ranking each of these on their own because it's all kind of the same thing. And yeah, I'm sorry to say that. And it is not going to get a lot of points. I'm sorry. I don't even know if I should get it a quarter of it. So, I mean, and it's also borrowing parts from inside and out of Bionicle, but it's like, oh, they made colors for these in other themes. So there you go. If that Tahunga head was in black, they would use it. Bar none. It is available in like 2 or 3 colors currently. And this is the darkest of them, was dark gray, which is the first color. So it's basically taking Nuparu, Onepu, I think one of the Barak Va, Nuvak Va, basically, the legs from there. Or Hafu. We both used them. And Onu is Bakari. And making the figure out of that. And of course, there you go. Using the disc too. And then we have the Nuvak in black. Now, again, they try something different in which they add green. But is that only because that part doesn't exist in black? I know that part exists in black. I'm pretty sure, specifically, that part is in black with Rudaka. I'm going to check. I'm going to actually fact check that right now. So I'm going to look up Rudaka on the stream. That's in silver. But is it in black in another set? I feel like I've seen it before in black somewhere. Yeah, there's an official picture of it. I get the summary. Black in one set. Oh, yeah. I have the set and I forgot it. Drill Dozer from Hero Factory has it in black. And it's basically used on the side of his head for some kind of horns. Now, I don't know if this person has access to that set, but would it surprise you if they used it? Would you really expect that if they own this set or had Bricklink to get those parts, that maybe they would have added that in there. Especially considering the other models when they are looking for every single piece to be in black. You want a black Borak. You don't have a lot of other shield options than Nuvok. So, no problem using it. With the Brainstock for Tahu, you don't have one in black. You don't even have one in a transparent black. So you use green. The weird thing that I find is that these are not the eyes of the Borak. So carrying that over, that design philosophy, doesn't really work. But I do like seeing them here in green. And I know that those green ones are from Knight's Kingdom too. I own the set Citadel of Orlan that it came from, and it gave you a lot of them. So I think I should give it the credit that it's not in black, that they have not used it. And yeah, I mean, like, if they wanted to go with the eyepiece sort of thing, the one that's associated better with the Borak as far as eyepieces would be those two things that are on the sides of his head. So those are there in black. And that's like one of the most relevant Borak parts in Lego's catalog today. So it is not hard to find it in other colors. If they wanted to stick to it being flat green, like the other one, they could do that. If they wanted it to be transparent green, like it was for Tahu, they could do that. It was released at the time like that. So the fact that they chose that in black and the other part in green, I will give it some credit because it could have easily been the other way. Or they could have just made the whole thing in black. And the only things that would have stood out as far as another color would be the gears in the middle, which were only made in light gray. And the rubber band, which was in green. I mean, you could use a black rubber band, but it wouldn't be the same elasticity and probably wouldn't even be the same diameter. So if you want one authentically from a Borak, to make that same play feature, you have it in green. It's basically the only color they had made it in, as far as I know. So with that being said, I kind of like that. I kind of like that they didn't fully go into that. Okay, stream's still running. I thought it kicked out on me, which would be a shame. Let me look around. Anything else I should know from the backside? No, not really. Oh, well, there you go. So they did go with a green Krana. Actually, that's an important thing for me to address here. A green Krana, and the faceplate holding the Krana is in light gray. I'm pretty sure that's in black. I thought I'd seen that in black before. Watch me be wrong again. Because I think that's the kind of thing that you would find with a Borak Va. And I could definitely see people doing that, where they take the Borak Va and they incorporate it into the Borak themselves to make a mute color out of it, a monochrome, if you will. They could have done that with the Krana itself being from the Borak Va. Oh! Is that so? So as I'm looking at the different colors, it is not available in black. The other muted color that you could have come up with would be dark gray, kind of like you did with the Tahunga. But I guess if you were going off of what from the original Borak can I change in black, and then this is one of those parts that doesn't change from it, okay. I mean, it matches up with the gears being in light gray, So no problem there. That's interesting. I think this is kind of an interesting case study on its own, because people do like monochroming the figures. And surprisingly, I haven't actually seen the recolors beyond the Toa. So I'm actually curious about the Motorin or the Borok, if people have done that before. It's something that I could see as a kid. I probably wanted to do that at some point, as much as I wanted to do it with the Toa. Um, and it's still cool to see it with the Toa Mata, especially um, at conventions and things. So I would say across all of them, I don't know what we want to call these. Actually, I do have a name for them. So I'm going to call them Back in Bionicle Black. Look, it was either a Men in Black joke or a Back in Black joke from ACDC. I chose the ACDC one. So, as far as originality, to Bionicle, no points. It is entirely constructed from what had already been released as a set. The only change is the color. Is it original to the community? I'll give it half a point. I mostly have seen recolors that are just about the Toamata, which is where it doesn't get the full point. The Dahunga I could probably see being a thing, but again, I'm not aware of it. And the Borok, actually, I have not seen. I have not been aware of. So far, it gets half a point. There. Would I build this myself? Probably at some point. I'm ashamed to say it, that I had built a Shadow Toa of Gali. And while that wasn't my original intent for it, I had recolored Gali. I had basically give her exactly Onua's color scheme. And the limbs would not be in black, but rather in dark gray. So it's crossed my mind since then of trying to build Tahu entirely in black. So, and I know I have all the parts for it. I might even have the mask. So I could do that. Would I have chosen green for the brain stock? Probably not. I think I probably would have went with either red or yellow. Unless I really wanted to mute it, then I would choose blue. But yeah, probably would have been red or pink, just to kind of match up with Tahu Mata's eyes, and probably do something similar with the rest of them. I don't remember if I did that with the Gali that I made, if I made him red or made him yellow or something like that. I have to look back on that. But the Borok, I'm actually kind of fascinated by. I'm curious about the fact that they had actually used green as opposed to silver, or even, it wasn't black, unless they had access to it. Maybe that's why they didn't choose it. The Krana could have easily been in black. They're not hard to find. They're pretty cheap, especially Krana Va, or inactive Krana, whatever you want to call it. That's something I could build out of my own parts. I think the entire figure I could actually build out of my own parts. The Tahunga, I don't remember if I have all the parts for it, but I probably wouldn't take much effort to find them. I'm actually trying to remember if you need Nuparu at all. I know Nuparu has been black, but I'm pretty sure that the whole arms and torso are done on Onepu inherently, and I know I have Onepu. So yeah, I could build this one. Would I want to? Kind of. See, I would, if I were to build it, I would kind of do it in a similar way to Motonui Online, in which other people have done this, and I had seen that there have been variations of it here and there. Other people would have added some gray, or could have kept it in black. but they would use the infected How. As in that game, Modern New Online 1, they represented Makuta as a Tahunga with an infected How mask. And that's kind of chilling, especially for a kid when you're first like experiencing that. It's like you have reduced yourself visually to the commoner, the villager, the ones you're protecting, to really tug at the heartstrings, you know? Like, as opposed to being a big imposing monster, you reduced it to something that was all too familiar, which is a very, very interesting angle. Even to this day, I still think that's like actually kind of, twisted. So, if anything, I would probably build it for that purpose. I probably wouldn't change it for, a Bakari or other forms of masks. Maybe a black How, but I know I have an infected How, so I'll probably just use that. So where are we at now? It's like half a point for what I built it myself, half a point for have I seen it or is it original to the community, and no points for the originality to Bionicle. So overall, this one receives a 1 out of 3. It does virtually exactly what a Bionicle set does, but it covers it in as much black as possible with an asterisk. It does change one or two things that could have been black. For whatever reason, were not included like that. The choice of green is actually a bit unique, but it still doesn't change as much from what the base thing is and what most people would want to do. And it is something that I might experiment with, at least to one point or another. I don't know if I'd keep it permanently in matte black for something, but it is something I could probably tinker with just to see it myself in person. All right, then. So, if we got the stream still running, this one is kind of counts. I mean, technically in the search engine, it brought it up as a Bionicle mock, even though we have a Hero Factory-based mock. People in the Bionicle community still build Hero Factory mocks, so I'm going to say it's okay. I think February is actually the month of building Hero Factory mocks, so I'll allow it. I'm actually moving Bionicle pieces at my feet. They're all feet pieces, go figure. But they were right on, right next to the chair. So, with this one, Hero Factory lot, Waspix 2231 and Bionicle Monster Mock. I'm not actually sure if Waspix is a custom here or a mod from it. It's a little hard to tell for what I'm familiar with. I am looking at other listings down here that show Waspix, and it seems to be about the same. Or very closely the same. Let's see. Waspix 2231 and Bionicle Monster Mock will ship assembled. Waspix is nearly complete. Okay, so this is a set. I will not be judging the set. Mock is made out of genuine Lego Bionicle parts. Parts may be missing or subbed for completion. See pics for details. Box instructions included. Manuals will be downloaded. Okay. So this one is a fascinating look in which I am not going to be able to judge the other model. It is entirely a officially released Bionicle set. I cannot weigh in on that. It is also not a set that I own, just offhand. So that's why I wasn't familiar with it entirely. I have some knowledge of the Hero Factory sets outside of what I've owned, but not greatly. So I wouldn't be like, oh, but it has this part or this limb or something. It's like, yeah. So I'm not going to be judging Waspix. Even though it's a cool looking thing, it is not something that this is about. So we're going to be looking at this specific Bionicle mock off to the side. So in terms of originality, luckily we do have a couple of pictures here so we can actually scroll through a little bit more of what it looks like at different angles. In terms of originality to Bionicle, it does remind me a lot of what the Matoran of 2008 were built like, but a bit more than that. So it's not as bad. It does borrow a lot of elements, sure, but it does a couple things different from it. Because normally those particular figures would not have as many articulated joints. They have like one piece that stretches from the base of the torso, which is still being used here, but that's okay. You can still use that as a mock piece. They use the base of the torso, but there's like a piece that attaches from there to be the entire arm or the entire leg. It's not like a forearm or a foreleg where there's still going to be a joint in between to move with. So I think this one's actually like good for its originality. It looks very similar, yeah, but it doesn't do it exactly like other stuff does. I mean, the combination of parts are still very basic. I mean, this is literally something that we've seen from the Vaki to Motoro and all different places in between, and even further from that. So it doesn't have a lot of meat on its bones. It doesn't really do a lot more with those parts. It still uses them pretty much in the way you would expect to. And even things on the ends, different colors here and there, but I'm pretty sure these were used in some of the figures as well. Like, as those vampiric looking Matoran in 2008, they had parts like these, especially towards the front. I remember one of them having that exactly as the forearms. But the one thing I will say that it doesn't do are these large wings. Like, it does incorporate different elements from Bionicle sets. The base model of it doesn't exactly copy what a Matoran and Avmatoran, that's the word I was looking for, an Avmatoran does, or even a Glotorian afterward, but it does still pull from different sides of things. So it's kind of like what I had said before about Aros, the second one that we had looked at in this live stream. It's pretty much a combination of existing constructions with a little bit of flair here and there. So much like that one, I'm going to give this half a point. It's somewhat different, but not fully. In terms of originality to the community, I haven't seen a lot of these personally in the community, anything of like this stature. Most mocks that I have seen from the community, even in the Matoran aspect of things, would have a lot more complexity to them. So while it may not stand out in its own build, in its own build techniques, it is not something that I have seen a lot of people try to build in the community and say it's a creature or it's a Matoran or something. I think the wing pieces do get some use here and there, but maybe not something of this stature. Usually a much larger model would be using those. So I'm going to give it at least half a point there, that it does something different from the community. I mean, it's really hard to judge this without saying, oh, but it's not the kind of thing that, the community wants to build. Somebody did, or even anything like that. I should probably give it the full point. I would say that this is different from what the community has done. Even if it's not the most impressive thing out there, it may not need to be. It may already have something that just kind of speaks for itself. Again, even for smaller creatures and figures, villagers, citizens, this is not the kind of thing that people have jumped to, or at least I've seen that they've jumped to, like, abundantly. So yeah, I'll give it the full point there. So we got half a point for originality to Bionicle. We got a full point for originality to the community. Is this something that I would build? Well, as a kid, easily. I would definitely put something like this together if I had the parts. So for a little bit of backstory, which I'm sure I haven't shared the story before ever, or ever will again, I left off Bionicle in 2008, pretty much at the tail end of 2007. I was aware of it in 2008. I had only a little mini poster from McDonald's. Didn't even have the toy. That a friend gave me in lunch, and I did not buy any of the 2008 sets. I did buy a set in 2009, and I still knew of them in the catalogs and the comics and things like that, but I wasn't actively building with them as much. So in 2009, while I did know that the Avmentoran build was still carried over into the Glatorian, I did buy a scroll. And that's not what this thing is. So if I had access to this kind of torso piece back then, and I didn't get Bionicle Stars either when it initially came out. If I had any of those kinds of figures with that kind of torso to it, I would probably build something like that as a kid. But is it something that I would want to build nowadays? I would try to do something more than that. I would try, like, even if I use the same system for it, and I do have those parts available, I would try to add more to all of the points. Maybe even more onto the torso for any connection points that are on there to, beef it up a bit more. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a skinny mock where it might need that for what it needs to represent, but I would try to do more with it personally, even even with those kinds of parts. But it's not something that I really think, draws me to build something. When I look at this thing, I'm like, yeah, it looks like a set, but it's not a set. It's a mock, and it's got some things different, but it's not the kind of thing that I'm like, I got to build that, or I got to build something just like that, or heavily inspired by that. So I'm not giving it a point for that. So currently we have, I don't even know what I'm going to call this thing, and I need to bring it back. We're going to call it the Bionicle Monster. So I had said it was half a point because it's not that original to Bionicle. It's the kind of thing that would have already existed in that, in that design, and again, borrowing elements from other things to put it together. Pieces used in predictable ways. And the Vaki leg piece is a very common one to pair up like that for arms and for legs. Even if you change the length of the connector itself, it's kind of doing the same thing all the time. The sword pieces that are on the ends of the legs, on both, on all four of the legs, very predictable. Something that has been done other times and other people have tried since then. The most unique thing I can find out of it is the wings. Using those wings and on the forearms like that is a change up from what I would expect. Originality to the community, I gave it a 1 because this is not the thing that the community would generally build, but as a mock, it is different. It is something that, in a smaller scale model has not been built, or at least that I have seen built in this way often by the community. And I did not give it any points for something I would want to build, because I would try to go further than that personally. It does not say that this thing is awful or bad for how basic it is. It could still have merit for what it's supposed to be, but I would like to try something greater personally, even at a smaller scale. So we give the Bionicle Monster a 1.5 out of 3. I don't have any other points to award for this one. I don't even want to take away a point from some parts being overused. So then we're going to move on to another one, we have the Lego Boss Dragon Mock from various Bionicle parts, assembled one of a kind. Let's see if there's anything more in the description. Nope. Nothing else about... Well, the wings, will take wings off. I mean, that's just for shipping. It's not like a play feature. It's not necessarily a aesthetic choice or anything like that. He's got some beef. This guy's pretty, like, even just by looking at him and scaling with some of the pieces, this guy is tall. I mean, his torso is probably like a little stout. He doesn't even have that, like, he does have a neck, but most of it is very, low to the torso, as from what I can tell. But he's got some big legs, and again, he's got the chicken leg philosophy going on. I see a couple of things here and there that remind me of a set or two, but maybe it would have had a little bit more going on with it. So the fact that they make this thing stand without that, I think, is more original. I think it's doing more of its own thing. I gotta say though, using the Ultimate Doom mask with the fangs like that, it's basically what Ultimate Doom has, but he does have a lower jaw. So I'm not sure on there. The wing assembly, while basic, is, again, we're not trying to judge it for that, is different. I would say that, yeah, the Carter's Dragon does technically use those pieces for the wings. Does it use them in that construction? No. Does it use that many of them? No. So I'm going to leave that one alone, even if it's very spindly, but also kind of cool how spindly it is. I'm not entirely sure what's going on top of his head with, like, that spiral thing. It's very far up from what the head is, so I don't know if there's more meaning behind it. But it's interesting nonetheless. And like with this one, we get a couple of other images of things up close or certain things more highlighted. There's a better look at the torso, which I think is really original. I think there's a lot of, uniqueness to the torso and legs, especially. Because I don't remember anything else that looks like that or using the tubes in that way. I like that the tubes actually go into the panel pieces, which is something that they've always been able to do. But as in terms of mocks in the community, I don't recall seeing it that often. And it makes a really nice presence to him. Like, if you told me, like, let's say I didn't grow up with Bionicle, and you told me that this was the main bad guy, Makuta, I believe you. Maybe even if I watched, like, Legends of Metro Nui and didn't already know of Ultimate Doom or didn't already know of Makuta in 2003, I'd say, yeah, they did a good job of trying to recreate the movie version. If that was the intent originally, that's even better. Yeah, so we still got chicken leg syndrome going on, which, again, it's a fine technique, but it's the way that it's done that's kind of interesting. Although I will say, now looking at it a bit closer, it borrows a little bit from what the 2004 Titans have done, again, with those throwbacks pieces on the sides. But it's not entirely bad, because it also supplements it with other pistons and things. Like, I'm actually kind of curious about this. This looks kind of sturdy. I think you're already getting an idea of how I'm going to vote for this one. So he's got a big wibbly tail in the back. He's got two spine pieces. I saw at least one. I wasn't sure if it was going to have two spine pieces. So that's neat. I don't recall any other mocks that do two of these side by side on the back. So that's pretty neat. There's a little bit more of the head construction back there. So you can see how the head connects to the, or mask, head, whatever, connects to the fangs. It looks like it could tilt up. Like, it does have more neck articulation to it. Just waiting for it to allow me to zoom. There we go. There's even gearwork built inside of it. Wow. Okay. I would not have expected that. I didn't expect that giant 16-tooth gear in there. But I really, this does feel like someone's recreation of Makuta, getting a very rustic, dark, mechanical feel for this character. I like this thing a lot, actually. This is a really nice job. I'm even going to excuse the forearms of being a little on the basic side because the rest of it works really well. Let me see. That's interesting for the feet. Yeah, I can't remember if that's existed in a set or a combo exactly like that. There's probably a little bit similar, but not to my recollection. So much going on here. It's so nice. I really do like the tube look. I really, really like that. That gives a lot of flair. It gives a lot of character. Wow. I was not expecting this to look as awesome from the first photo as it was. So, with this boy, is it original to Bionicle? I've given it the point. I'm going to go full point on this one. There are only a handful of things that remind me of the sets, but I don't think are done in the exact same orientation. And the fact is, it's really pulling off something different from what those sets offer. Maybe a little bit similar, but I think it's really going for its own thing, ultimately. Do we have a name for this guy? Or just calling him the boss dragon? Okay. I just want to be sure that I got my points written down. Is it original to the community? Absolutely. There's a lot for the chicken legs, just as a design choice, but the actual construction of those chicken legs is different. The bottom part, yes, we did see it before, so it is really funny how it uses the same Hordika leg piece for the bottom of the chicken legs, but it also backs it up because it has pistons to go with it. So while it does borrow literally the same piece, just by chance, it's also doing something new with it. So, I'm going to give this a full point. This is not something that I have seen in the community. It does not remind me of anybody else's creation so far. Maybe the wings have been used similarly before, or those pieces on the wings from a community member, but the general outline of this thing is really, really standing out here. I like that. And as if it wasn't already obvious, I am giving it a full point for I want to build something like this myself. This does inspire me. This is a really fascinating model that I want to try some of these little things. Like, I'm not personally into the chicken leg mentality right now, but maybe I'll grow to like it for maybe a certain character or two where it's going to stand out a bit from other things. And the way that the forelegs are created really invites that. I think that's really cool on its own. The torso, yes, the torso. I would love to do tube work like that. That is geniusly done. I really want that kind of thing to happen. The spikes on the back of him, I wouldn't have thought of using two of them, but I would definitely incorporate a spike, as probably those particular spikes, into a character at some point. I really like this one. This is really good, in my opinion. So with that being said, this one gets the full points of 3 out of 3 from the rating system. I mean, I'm trying to think of a bonus point to come up for with it. I mean, really, the tubes are the reason why I would want to build it myself. But I don't know. I literally just made the system so I could fudge it if I wanted to. I kind of want to give it another point for the tube working because not only is it about the actual Technic tubes or even how they go into the panels on the top, like the nearly collar area. It's also that piece in the middle that looks like tubing. It just inherently has little ribbing on it. That's good. That's a good use. You also have the tube on the back that wraps around the torso. I like this mechanical style of it. So I'm going to revise it and I'm going to say that the boss dragon now gets a full extra point because it really represents the mechanical look that it's going for. It's more than just being a robotic figure with some organic parts. I think it's actually leaning more into the roboticism than the organicness. There are things in fiction that work like that, depending on the fiction. I think robots, yes, that robots from, I think, Blue Sky Studios, is actually a good example of it. It's either Blue Sky or DreamWorks. I might be wrong. But there's, the actual movie robots or, sentient robots. I forget the madam's full name in that movie. Madam Chop Shop or something like that. I'd be surprised if I got it actually correct. While everybody in that world is mechanical, she has the grungiest look to her. There's more happening with the parts that move around her, that rust around her, to really give another vibe. And that vibe is similar with what I see in here. So I am definitely giving this another full point as the boss dragon, 4 out of 3. Well done. And you got full points on the regular stuff, which is commendable. That is amazing. I'm gonna have to bookmark some of these later on so that I can actually go back and try to build them. not build them exactly. But get inspired by them and try different things. I do appreciate that there are multiple photos. All right, so next up, we have the Lego Bionicle Spider Fikunui Mock. Now, Fiku is a spider that's in Bionicle. It's been represented a couple different times as actual sets. I think in the story has also been represented in a couple different species. I don't remember if they have all different, builds to them. Anything in the description I should know? Fan built creation, enjoy. That's all we got. This one does give us a couple of different photos. So I'm going to take a look at the one inherently from it. As long as I can zoom in and catch it the right part. Right now I have only 3 tabs open. Okay. All right. Okay. It reminds me of 1 or 2 things. I can't put my finger on it though. And Discord's still going. Of course it is. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry I can't soundproof the room. Things just happen. Anyways, interesting from the side of it, how it's built. It's like simple and yet it's got a lot more going on. Like I would not have guessed certain things. It's actually kind of neat. Almost has like a gaping jaw look to it, like it's ready to feast upon its flesh, if you may. Unfortunately, this is the last one I'm going to have for tonight, and I'm going to have to continue this sometime later. So, yeah. I'm still going to rate this one, but yeah, I'm going to have to come back to this as soon as possible so that the other ones don't get lost, or I might even have to preemptively screenshot them or something so that I can still review them, assuming that the listings aren't bought up too quickly. So, let's take a look at things. The Fiku Nui. This one does remind me of Bionicle sets, but I can't put my finger on which ones. Like, using those arm pieces for a spider sounds like something that's been done before, but I don't actually remember which sets have used it. So I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt that this is something that hasn't been done in Bionicle before. It might have been done in other Lego sets in general, but not really coming to my mind as much. Using the Fang piece, I mean, one of the best uses for it, so I don't blame it. Let's see. It's got 6 legs as a spider, especially as a Bionicle spider. Like, normally in Bionicle, spiders are expected to have 4 legs, as opposed to the, real life anatomically 8 legs of a spider. So this one having 6 is kind of different, kind of welcoming. I don't remember if any other ones in combo models or anything did 6 legs. The Visorak might have, but there's 1 or 2 that I don't remember as being legs, more like fangs or mandibles or something in the front. Let me think. They kind of do. Yeah, it kind of does. Because I see 2 small ones in the front, and it looks like 2 in the back on each side. Unless this is supposed to be 1 big one. And then you have the Kagarak, which uses the pretty standard legs. But that's what I'm saying. It has looks like mandibles in the front, even though it already has the pincers. And then it has 2 pincers facing upward, so I don't know what that's supposed to represent. I don't know if they're supposed to be legs. Let's see. This one kind of does. It's 6 limbs. Well, I don't know if they're all legs necessarily. It's almost like a centaur because it has 4 legs with 2 upper arms. Yeah, I don't know if that one counts. This one's intended for all legs to be, facing forward on the ground. None of them are upright. I thought there was another one. Well, there's this thing. And I don't really know what to make of that. That just looks like a cluster to me. Another photo of it. That's just... Honestly, every time I look at it, it looks like a pile of parts. I think it's supposed to have 6 legs, but it just looks so cluttered that I kind of forget that they're legs. But even the construction is different. So I'm going to give it the full point. I'm going to say that the Fiku Nui has a full point for originality to Bionicle. It is not something that I can recall exactly from a set. It is not something, I mean, I can't even wrap my head around when those parts themselves would have been used for legs, in Bionicle at least. And when they were for other things, I don't know. Kind of up in the air about that one. Originality to the community, it's got a full point. I know the community has built spiders. I do not recall spiders as spindly as this. This is not the kind of thing I want to see, like, at the end of my bed or on my chest in bed. This reminds me of like a Daddy Long Legs, and it's so cool how creepy it is. I also really got to give props to the face, because it's using the tooth fang-like pieces for the eyes. And yeah, I know spiders don't always have to have eyes like that, but this is Bionicle, so you can do something different. And it's really good different. I think it creates a really good look to it. Honestly, it reminds me of the animated version of the Lord of Skull Spiders, but it's not the same construction as the Lord of Skull Spiders. So it's really cool for being its own thing. Honestly, it almost looks better, because the Lord of Skull Spiders as a set only has it as a printed faceplate. There is no actual teeth that come out. It's just a design on there. So I'm definitely giving the full point there. Would I want to build something like this or inspired by this? Probably. I mean, it's creepy as hell, so it's probably not the first thing I would think of. But I think I would change a couple of things, and I could see some inspiration from this. Even just the face by itself is really inviting. I might extend out the torso, the abdomen, some other parts of it, the thorax, whatever the spider terms are. I don't know if I'd still keep it with 6 legs, or if I'd try to go the full extent, maybe eight legs. I maybe add some extra joints to it. So yeah, it is definitely something that I could try to build. So I think it's all 3. So with that being said, it's got 1 point for originality to Bionicle, 1 point for originality to the community, and 1 point for inspirational. Something I would attempt at some point. I'm going to give it a full extra point here for really sticking with the creepiness. It's really got the theme all throughout. Every single part of it represents that unnatural, unnerving design of it. This does not look like your Picari wearing Fiku spiders that we all know and love. Cute little boys, just minding their own business. I guess technically they have 6 legs, but they're also not using the same parts to make those legs. The leg piece that they use is this thing's jaw. This thing is menacing. This thing is on its own merit. It is hungry, and you are its dinner. This is a really nice one. I'm glad that this one came up. So this one's getting the full extra point for how creepy it is. I mean, there may be a little bit of bias to that, because I'm really not into spiders. Like, in real life. Animated spiders or fictional spiders, sometimes. Like Spider-Man, I'm okay with him as a superhero. I don't mind that he has the powers of a spider or moves like a spider. Bionicle spiders, they look kind of rad. I don't think that's a problem, and I think sometimes that creepiness makes them more interesting, kind of like in here. And since we're judging this as a Bionicle mock, there you go. It works. So yeah, The Fikanui gets a 4 out of 3. Well done, sir. Or ma'am. We don't judge here. We don't judge that part. This is really good stuff. So I'm gonna go over so I can try to remember this for next time. I believe the next couple of entries are from the same person. So we have the Women Warrior mock. We have the Dark Hunter Crystal Climber, which I'll have to look up if that's actually from Dark Hunters. I don't know if this is the person who made it, but I have seen, ones based on the Mahi Beasts and Dark Hunters books come up on eBay, recreating the mock, recreating the contest entry. It is a canon model. It is still a mock, however, so I feel like it still deserves the look, You have the shoot spider. It looks like a shoot spider. Which, again, I think that was in, Rahi Beasts. There you go. You have Bionicle Gigantum, which I'm already getting a funny feeling about. This one's just called My Owned Creation, once again. I think this might be the same person as before, but a different design, which actually looks kind of neat from the sidelines. There's a couple of bulk lots in here I'm going to have to skip over. We have one with Takanuva and a mock. So, again, a set one that I'm not going to judge, but I'll judge the rest of it. And a lot more after that. So I'm going to close that up, and I'll talk to you later, hopefully sometime soon. Thanks for watching.